When sex becomes a weapon, the results can be lethal.
She had an unnatural control over people. It was as if she got a gift from the devil.
Bedroom plots leave 2 husbands dead.
She's the most manipulative person I've ever encountered.
A mother traps her son in a web of lust and greed.
He blew a hole through the door. And it blew a good-sized hole through Norma.
And a young man meets a monster.
My son. He just wanted to be loved.
These deadly women use men as lethal tools. They are master manipulators. What kind of power makes a man turn against his good friend and fight him to the death?
She was an oversexed, bed-hopping, trashy person who thought that she was the belle of the ball.
The power of a deadly woman.
Sharon's a typical black widow. Marries for money, kills for profit.
I'll never understand how she could murder my dad.
Look at you.
You like?
Oh, I like.
Sharon Nelson doesn't go anywhere without making a splash.
Very nice.
The women in town looked at her thinking, why is she wearing that skirt so short? The men would look at her and think, wow, she's a hot little number. I'd like to get to know her.
How much?
Colorado doctor Perry Nelson thought the same thing. It's exactly what Sharon wants.
We'll be fine. You just need to relax.
Relax.
Immediately, she sets her eyes on the doctor in town, Dr. Nelson, who is handsome. He's kind of charismatic. He's rich. He's got money. He's got an airplane.
When Sharon meets Dr. Nelson, they're both married to other people. That doesn't stop her. 2 divorces later, she has her man.
When I first met her, I was just a girl. And from my perspective, I thought she was a lot of fun.
With a new husband comes a new stepdaughter. Lori Hustwaite was 13 when her father remarried.
I actually had some really good times with Dad and Sharon. We went on some trips together and camping together, and she seemed, seemed to include me in their new life together, and I guess you could say I liked her.
Sharon Nelson is not a woman who's safe to like.
Gary, come in. Come in. What do you think?
10 years into her marriage to Dr. Perry Nelson, Sharon is getting restless.
Sharon, I'm lucky to meet the Mountain Man.
The mountain.
And Raggedy Ann.
Sharon hosted a Halloween party. She's dressed as Scarlett O'Hara in a very romantic little costume that she's put together. And Gary Adams comes in as a mountain man.
Oh, yes, it's beautiful. Thank you.
Gary Adams is one of Dr. Nelson's friends.
Oh, that's Sandra.
Yeah, Sandra's here, yeah. Sandra, look who's here.
To Sharon,
Save me a dance, Mountain Man.
I'll just do that.
he's another target.
He was rough, he was sexy, she thought, and he was strong. And all those things added up to excitement for her.
Gary will be her new lover and her tool in a deadly plan.
Sharon was only dangerous to a man that could do something for her financially. Those were her husbands. They were the ones in danger.
Sharon has a problem. She married Dr. Nelson for money. And now she's spent it all.
What is this?
A new car.
The best way to refill her bank account
I needed a new car.
is put a price on her husband's head
Yeah, but you always say that.
with life insurance.
Settle down. What is your problem?
Don't tell me to
She wanted the $200,000 in life insurance.
Like this.
She needed that. She wanted to fuel a lifestyle of extravagance. So the money was a motivator.
Take the goddamn car back!
But also, she was bored with the doctor. She wanted the excitement of a new adventure and of a new man.
That new man is her husband's good friend, Gary Adams.
Gary Adams was absolutely smitten by Sharon. He was pretty much a country boy, lived in a small home, did not have a lot of resources, and would have done anything for her.
So Sharon sends Gary on a special mission,
So you really do it?
a road trip with her husband.
Leave it to me.
My father was headed to Denver, and Gary Adams wanted to catch a ride with him. Gary had my dad pull the car over and said he had to go to the bathroom, and came back to the car and said he had dropped his wallet.
How on earth did you lose your wallet? I don't.
And so my dad went to help him look.
The ultimate betrayal awaits.
Wallets. Huh? Got here. Down there.
Gary took a rock and hit him over the head with it.
The murder isn't going to plan.
Anybody who is struck on the back of the head by a 15 to 20 pound rock should lose consciousness.
But the icy hand of the Colorado River is joining the fight.
Falling into icy water may cause this individual to become alert, to awaken. This would have heightened the intensity of the fight. The icy water, the strength and the adrenaline of the victim were not the killer's friend.
Perry Nelson didn't die easily. And in those last moments, he probably knew that his friend had come there to do evil to him.
Can't imagine how he would have felt about being betrayed. I can't imagine what his last thoughts were.
Sharon Nelson feels no remorse. This murder is just the beginning.
The fact that she had one husband killed and then used the same man to have another husband killed was just absolutely astounding to everybody who worked on this case.
When Dr. Perry Nelson goes missing on a drive to Denver, police and his family think it's just an accident.
My dad's body wasn't found for 13 months. So there was a long stretch of time there with lots of unanswered questions for us.
Look at you. Look
The
at
answers
you.
lie with Dr. Nelson's wife, Sharon.
How much was all this stuff?
She ordered his death.
Honey.
Sharon Nelson was an extremely narcissistic individual,
You just need to relax.
a absolute cold and calculating person who had the ability to manipulate others.
The killer is Sharon's lover, Gary Adams. He earns a bounty for his work.
Shortly after Perry Nelson was declared dead and Sharon had received her insurance settlement, Gary Adams was seen driving around town in a new pickup truck.
Three years later, Sharon has a new husband. Denver fireman Glenn Harrelson.
Hey, baby.
He told his friends, I found a fun-loving, classy beauty, and I couldn't be happier.
You didn't go shopping again, did you?
He just didn't know who he was with.
You want me to look good, don't you?
Marriage to Glenn Harrelson follows a familiar pattern. Sharon spends his money, becomes bored, and starts plotting his murder.
When she wanted her way out of something, she went to her go-to guy. She went to Gary Adams and said, Gary, I got to get out of this marriage.
Desperately in love, Gary Adams is in Sharon's complete control.
So how are you gonna do it?
Well, fire and water are the only things that cover your tracks.
Ready to kill for her, yet again.
He said, well, we've done it once. She says, I know, we can do it again.
When Glenn Harrelson arrives home one evening, his wife has a surprise for him.
When Glenn Harrelson walked into the door, Gary Adams then shot him in the head with a .22 pistol, then placed a bunch of papers and magazines on top of his body and set those on fire.
Glenn's body is found in the burnt-out house with a gunshot wound. Detective Glenn Traynor has some questions for the grieving widow.
When we asked her where she was when Glenn died, she stated very quickly that she was at a friend's house who lived just down the hill from her.
Did he say how?
We found that to be very odd because we did not even know at the time when Glenn had died.
Tired of living a lie.
Sharon can't keep her guilty secrets any longer.
One with money problems can be doomed from the start.
Are you referring to your marriage with Glenn Harrison?
No, Perry Nelson.
She was just very matter-of-fact, almost no emotion displayed. She could have been as very well talking about going to the grocery store as having her boyfriend commit 2 murders.
Perry said he could arrange so that...
I think Sharon confessed so quickly because she knew she wasn't going to get away with it,
What did he say?
and she wanted to be in control of it.
That fire and water are the only way to cover your tracks.
She actually thought she could paint Gary Adams into the corner, where he would take the fall for the crimes that she was very much involved in.
We need you to come down to the station and make a full confession.
It didn't work.
Sharon Nelson and Gary Adams plead guilty to 2 counts of first-degree murder. Both are serving life sentences.
I went to see Sharon before she was sentenced and wanted to ask her why she did what she did. I just told her she didn't just kill her husband. You know, she killed my father and she killed my children's grandfather. And she had nothing to say for herself that would give any indication that she was sorry for what she had done.
It's lunchtime in the seaside city of Edgewater, Florida. Local dentist Norman Larzalier takes a well-earned break. Then lunch is cut short.
He saw the assailant come up the stairs. He took off running.
The midday murder of a dentist in his own office is something that you don't see too often.
Behind this death is the hand of a woman who craves sex, money, and control.
She had a black hole inside her. She was evil, as far as I'm concerned.
As a young girl, Virginia Larzalier dreamed of living the high life. Now, married to wealthy dentist Norman Larzalier, she's made it.
They lived in a large mansion. They were well respected. They spent money. They had nice cars, but there always was an element of somebody trying to work their way up.
But as journalist Robert Nolan discovers, her marriage is a sham.
She didn't like Norman that much. She was just tolerating him for the cars and the mansion and the bank account. I think she wanted more.
Norman Larzalier wasn't really prepared for a woman like Virginia Larzalier and didn't really know who he had married.
While she works in her husband's dental office, Virginia quietly pockets extra cash.
Virginia had a lot of problems, but her biggest problem guided her. And it was greed. What Virginia wanted, Virginia got.
Virginia's spending is only half the problem.
She was very seductive. She appeared to sexually come on to all males. Very sexually manipulative. She evidently wanted to establish some type of sexual control in all relationships with males.
Her desires know no boundaries. Seduction even extends to her own son.
Jason Larzalier seemed to be somebody who could be easily manipulated. And he bragged about having what he called a husband-wife relationship with his mother.
The mother-son sexual relationship is the most taboo of all the incest bonds that can exist. And along with it, we frequently see criminal behavior in which the mother leads the son down the path.
Eventually, Virginia's addiction to excess becomes too much for husband Norman.
I want to know where the hell you have been.
Take your hands off me! Jason is abusing me again!
It appeared towards the end that he was becoming aware of her spending, even though a lot was still secret from him, and that he was probably trying to crack down on it.
That's it. We're done. You're both out of this house.
He may have been planning on divorcing her to escape the mess of life that she was creating.
Good. Because I'm sick of looking at your face!
Norman is playing with fire. Virginia has another secret. She has insured him for millions, and she's ready to cash in.
She was calling up on one of the major insurance policies, making sure that everything was fine,
Tomorrow.
that it would be payable.
Good. Bye.
She knows exactly what to do because she's done it all before.
She's had 4 husbands. Everyone that we've talked to has been shot or almost killed.
This time, there will be no mistakes. The last person you'd expect to see in Virginia Larzalier's bedroom is her husband.
She was always sexually seductive to men, very flattering, and people liked it.
Once she has a man, she likes to use him. And Virginia's husband, Norman, is no longer useful. Alive.
With the insurance policy that Virginia had against Norman, he was worth $2 to $3 million to her dead. And if he was going to divorce her, that would dry up her lifestyle, too.
It's good, isn't it?
Oh, yeah.
That was the motive, it was money. And she would try to hire people to kill Norman.
Yeah.
Virginia asks her lovers to do the dirty work.
There's plenty more where that came from if you do that little job for me.
But they won't take the bait.
I can't do that.
So she will find someone who will.
Somebody just doesn't barge into a dentist's office, shotgun the dentist, and then run away. It was an assassination. It wasn't even a robbery.
Virginia is a master manipulator. And today she has the power of life and death.
He saw the assailant come up the stairs carrying a shotgun.
Norman Larzalier's quiet dental office is now a death trap.
He shut the door behind him and leaned up against the door so the gunman would not enter that area.
Dr. Larzalier thinks he recognizes the gunman.
Jason!
And calls out the name of his stepson.
Jason!
blew a hole through the door. It leaves a massive hole. There's splinters and everything where Norman was up against it, went all into his body. And it blew a good-sized hole through Norman.
As Norman lays on the floor, his dying gasps are his stepson's name.
Virginia Larzalier appeared to be giving him mouth-to-mouth resuscitation to prevent him from saying anything else after saying Jason's name.
But Virginia can't stop everyone from talking.
I need you to wipe the prints off.
Okay.
She tells her staff to help cover up the crime.
They said that Virginia ordered them to encapsulate the shotgun in cement, dump it.
And we had divers, and we ended up finding the guns.
Her personal assistant later testifies against her. And tells one more shocking story.
They overheard her telling Jason she would pay him $200,000 to, quote, take care of business, unquote.
What happens if you don't give me my money? You get your money.
Did Virginia Larzalier actually make her own son kill her husband? Both are arrested and put on trial for murder.
We believe that Dr. Norman Larzalier had actually recognized Jason Larzalier coming in from the outside.
The gunman had a ski mask and gloves, but the witnesses knew him, and they said, it looks like his body type. They said he moved the same way. And then you had the victim calling out Jason's name.
Jason!
But there is a reasonable doubt over his identity. And the jury finds Jason not guilty. Virginia isn't so lucky. She goes straight to death row. Later, her sentence is commuted to life.
Leopards don't change their spots. Virginia's personality is what it is. If she gets out of prison, she'll look around for a rich guy to marry. And he better sleep with one eye open.
Get more Deadly Women online. InvestigationDiscovery.com. Deep in the woods, a lonely farmhouse holds a grisly secret. Police are looking for a young man, reported missing.
When they went to the burn barrel, they looked in to see what was there.
Jeez, what is that?
They found a bone with a glob of burnt flesh on the knob. It was obviously a human bone.
It's the first clue to a crime whose horrors are beyond imagining.
I went, oh my God. Oh my God. What did she do to my son?
Sheila Labar is every mother's worst nightmare. Epping, New Hampshire. A typically quiet New England town. Until Sheila Labar arrives.
She's very smart. She would use her wits, use her charm, her southern accent.
Well, don't you look fine?
Hi, baby.
Wow, you look...
You like it?
I think it's just so sexy.
She's incredibly confident. She was not afraid to flirt.
I know it's a little bit delicate, but it's my favorite design.
She uses more than simple charm to capture the attention of wealthy doctor Wilfred Labar.
Thank you. It looks beautiful.
Yeah, I think we...
Wilfred Labar placed a Lonely Hearts ad in a magazine looking for some company. Sheila saw this ad and responded to it by sending topless Polaroid photos of herself. You can imagine if you are in your 60s and you're widowed, it wasn't much longer before Sheila moved from Alabama to Dr. Labar's farm.
As local journalist Kevin Flynn discovers, Sheila is a demanding partner.
A lot of people said to Dr. Labar, you gotta get rid of her. He just seemed unable to extract himself from that relationship.
Soon her control over the doctor is complete.
Slowly, what Sheila would do was ask Dr. Labar for power of attorney, and she started rewriting his will. And she made herself the executress of the will.
A few years later, Dr. Labar is dead.
The coroner said it was heart disease, but a lot of his relatives are not sure. They think that Sheila might have poisoned him in order to speed up the process of getting the farm.
Sheila inherits Dr. Labar's farm. Soon, she entices young men to share the work and her bed. But living with Sheila has its price.
We spoke to a number of neighbors that would see badly beaten young men sort of walking up the road from her house.
District Attorney Kirsten Wilson says the farm became a sadistic playground.
It's an isolated farm. I think it was all about control.
You were supposed to have done this hours ago.
Young men who
Come on, get
are
up
either
to the
loners
house.
or
What is wrong?
mentally maybe incredibly trusting. It's all about controlling them.
Oh, get to your feet, you pathetic pedophile!
Sheila was just a really mean person.
God, you're disgusting. Not you. No, you're beautiful.
She had an unnatural control over people. It was unholy. It was as if she got a gift from the devil.
In February 2006, Sheila is on the prowl for a new victim. Someone innocent and defenseless. Someone like Kenny County.
Kenny was a lovely, lovely boy. He couldn't do enough for you. Everybody was his friend. I was so proud of him.
Carolyn Lodge is Kenny's mother.
He never had a horrible word for anybody, and that was the problem. He trusted everybody.
Kenny has a low IQ. His childlike trust leads him into a terrible trap.
Hello?
Oh, hi, Sheila. It's Kenny.
Oh, hi, Kenny. How are you?
And he told my son Brian that he met a 47-year-old woman in New Hampshire.
Maybe this Wednesday, if you wanted to meet up and...
She owned a farm. She owned a beautiful car,
Kenny, I would love to meet you.
and she was rich.
You are in for a wild time.
And he was serious about her.
I think I know exactly what would make you happy.
Oh.
She chose that person,
To meet. I think you should come over.
someone who was physically weak and mentally weak.
I guess so. Yeah.
And she did it because she could feed her sadistic fantasies that way.
Great. Well, I guess I'll see you soon then.
Okay. Bye.
Bye-bye.
She came down in her car and picked him up, and he never came back.
Those got them?
Sheila LaBarre is a woman with a deadly passion. Her prey are young men.
She used her feminine wiles to get their attention, and then she isolated them from everyone else, and then began the torture, psychological as well as physical.
Kenny County is her latest victim. Tonight, his mistress is taking him shopping.
What the hell are you looking at? You don't see anyone in a wheelchair before?
Kenny couldn't walk. He had bruises all over his face. His complexion was an odd color of green. The people who worked at the store were really concerned about him.
Good afternoon, Miss LaBarre.
For weeks, Kenny has been in the clutches of a master manipulator.
That's ridiculous. From who?
You all right?
Hey,
You look off.
hey, don't talk to me. You don't have to
Kenny
answer.
didn't ask for help.
You don't have to answer anything.
He was
you
under
don't
Sheila's spell. And that's what Sheila wanted.
want. Now, if you don't mind, we'd like to leave.
You okay?
When they left that store that night, that was the last time Kenneth County was seen alive.
Weak, defenseless, Kenny County is in grave danger. Late one night, Sheila makes a frenzied call to police.
He's a pervert. He's a child molester. Kenner County. I can prove it.
Sergeant Gallagher receives a telephone call from Sheila, and she seemed somewhat frantic.
Sheila obsessively records everything she does.
It was a very disturbing tape that he listened to over the phone. Ken was being interrogated by her.
On the tape was my son vomiting.
Kenner County is faking vomiting. Get up, Kenny.
And she kept saying, he's faking, he's faking.
Get up. You're an idiot pedophile, aren't you, Kenny?
Yes.
You rape men.
Now he's a pedophile. Raping children, raping his brother. He's vomiting.
When she was urged to kill, to make it easier for herself, she had to fantasize that the men she was killing were pedophiles.
I think all right. The tape's all true. Every single
Used
bit
to
of
her
it.
eccentric calls, police decide to investigate the next morning. What they don't realize is that Kenny County is already dead.
What probably happened was that eventually Kenny realized he was in some sort of danger. And I think he might have lashed out in self-defense.
You want to rape your mother, don't you, Kenny? Talk right, Kenny. Talk right.
And I think that's what finally triggered Sheila into a homicidal rage.
Don't you ever do that to me.
There was blood on the walls, on the floor. There were puddles. There was spray. It was a bloody mess.
With her victim dead, Sheila calmly sits and watches him burn.
He was dismembered. Sorry. And he was put in a pit and burnt. But my son, he just wanted to be loved. I can't imagine what he must have been thinking. Because he was so all alone.
While Sheila tries hard to destroy Kenny's body, forensic evidence gives her away.
There was some readily apparent blood spatter. And Carolyn had told us that he had been in the Army for a while, and at that point, we crossed our fingers and hoped that they may have a DNA sample, and they did, luckily for us.
A wallet is found in the septic tank.
Oh, get to your feet.
It belongs to Michael DeLogue, another young man who had fallen prey to Sheila LaBarre. Convicted of 2 murders, suspected of more, Sheila LaBarre is currently serving 2 life sentences.
The fact that she has to remain for the rest of her life behind bars, she got what she asked for. She'll never see the light of day. Horrible thing is, my son is not here with me. He was only 24.
These deadly women had men wrapped around their fingers. Sharon Nelson's deadly charm destroyed 2 husbands. Insatiable desire made Virginia Larzalier consume her family. And Sheila LaBarre took innocent young men to a fiery grave. Sex was just a way for control. Murder was the real seduction for the master manipulators.